There is one thing I learned after a lifetime in the marketplace. People always search for secrets in the noisiest places, while the truth usually sits quietly right in front of them. For many years, people have traveled thousands of miles to Omaha to meet me. They walk into the office with eager eyes. In their minds, they have already painted a picture. Rows of supercomputers roaring away, algorithms flashing across dozens of screens, a room full of brilliant mathematical minds calculating every dollar. Then they look around, an old wooden desk, an old man sitting and reading a book, and often they feel disappointed. They want a complicated secret formula, something that makes them feel as if they have just touched the door of a private club. But the truth is so simple, it is hard to accept. Victory in the game of money and in life does not lie where they imagine. So let us speak plainly about intelligence. Look around your life. You probably know a few extremely intelligent people, the kind who always stood at the top of the class. Test scores almost perfect. Graduated from Ivy League schools. They can solve complex equations right in their heads. But look more closely at their lives now. Credit card debts stacked like firewood behind the house. A third marriage beginning to crack. A mind stretched tight like a violin string. And every week they spend 40 hours working under the orders of a boss whose highest diploma might only be high school. So what happened? How does a certified genius become a person living on a paycheck carrying a quiet sense of despair? The answer is simple, but hard to swallow. Society sold you a gigantic lie when you were still a child. They said IQ was the golden ticket. They said the smartest person in the room is always the one who wins. I have been in this game for more than 7 decades. I have seen extraordinary minds lose everything. And I have always said one sentence many people do not like to hear. Investing is not a game where the person with an IQ of 160 will win. In truth, the person with an IQ of 160 has no meaningful advantage over the person with an IQ of 130. If you possess an IQ of 160, do something wise. Sell 30 points to someone else. You do not need them. In the game of building wealth, those extra points can sometimes become the very thing that digs your own grave. To understand this, think about your brain like a car. Your IQ is the horsepower of the engine. Processing speed, intellectual power. A true genius is like a Ferrari with a twin-turbo engine producing 1,000 horsepower under the hood. A beautiful machine, powerful, and extremely impressive. But there is a very blunt rule in the physical world. Horsepower means nothing if you do not have a steering wheel. Reason, emotional discipline, a tight operating system, that is the steering wheel. Imagine you attach a 1,000 horsepower engine to a car with a broken steering wheel and no brakes. You will not win the race. You will only slam into the brick wall faster, harder, and more tragically than everyone else on the road. That is the tragedy of many extremely intelligent people. They lack a steering wheel. Worse than that, they use their intelligence to justify emotional decisions. People who are too intelligent often hate simple rules. Simplicity irritates them. It wounds their pride. Inside their heads, a familiar sentence echoes. I am a genius. This cannot possibly be this simple. I must discover the hidden complexity. And so they build tangled mathematical models to justify jumping into a ridiculous financial bubble. They think about their careers so much that they become paralyzed by analysis. They use their enormous vocabulary to win pointless arguments with a wife or a husband and then destroy their own family, all to prove that they are right. Their intelligence becomes a weapon that turns around and fires back at them. My partner Charlie Munger and I did not build Berkshire Hathaway because we possessed the most powerful engines. We did it because we had better steering wheels. We never tried to become geniuses. Every morning we simply tried to do one small thing, be a little less stupid than we were yesterday. You may not possess a Ferrari engine. Perhaps you only have a normal Ford 4-cylinder engine. Not glamorous, but durable. And if your steering wheel is properly aligned, everything changes. If you keep your eyes on the road, if you avoid the turns that plunge off the cliff, sooner or later you will pass the Ferrari that crashed in the very first mile. That is exactly what we are talking about today. I am not here to teach you how to read a cash flow statement. I am not revealing any stock picking trick either. Those things are only tools. Tools always change. Markets can collapse. Technology can turn in a new direction. But human nature does not change. Fear, greed, envy. In more than 90 years of living, I have distilled a very specific operating system. 5 foundational principles, rules that almost never change. They are what helped me survive and accumulate wealth while many geniuses on Wall Street lost their minds and went bankrupt overnight. But before we go further, I must say one thing plainly. These 5 principles are extremely easy to understand. A child could grasp them, but carrying them out is incredibly difficult. They force you to fight your own ego. They force you to look like a fool in front of your neighbors. And they force you to forget almost everything the system has stuffed into your head about the path forward. If you are tired of drifting, if you are ready to take the steering wheel and drive the car of your own life, then listen carefully. Let us begin with rule number 1. I call it the 20-hole card, or to put it plainly, the art of absolute subtraction. The world today worships busyness. Busyness has become a kind of medal. You ask someone how they have been lately, they puff out their chest and say, "Oh, I am very busy." 5 jobs at the same time. 3 languages they are learning. Real estate stocks, and then a few investments in startup companies. They run all day, exhausted. Yet they treat that exhaustion as proof of success. The truth is different. Motion is not progress. A rocking chair moves all day long, yet it never goes anywhere. It only burns energy. Most people live by a mistaken assumption. If you want more from life, you must do more for life. They are addicted to saying yes. Yes to every opportunity, yes to every invitation, yes to every project that sounds interesting. But here is the clear dividing line. Successful people say yes to many things. Truly successful people say no to almost everything. When I speak with college students, I often present a thought experiment. I tell them to imagine this. When you graduate, you are given a card that you will use for your entire life. On that card, there are exactly 20 slots, 20 holes. Every time you make a major decision, an investment, a turning point in your career, you must punch one hole in the card. But there is one cold condition. When all 20 holes are punched, the card is taken away. You no longer have the right to make any more major decisions for the rest of your life. Think carefully about the weight of that card. If you knew you only had 20 bullets in your entire life, how would you shoot? You would not swing at every pitch. You would not throw money into your brother-in-law's new restaurant just because it sounded interesting. You would not rush to buy speculative internet stocks just because a neighbor mentioned them at a barbecue. You would slow down, very slow. You would sit, observe, read, think. Sometimes for many years just waiting for one opportunity that is truly worth it. And when that rare opportunity that can change your life appears, you will use one of your precious bullets and you will bet big. To do this, you must understand a very blunt truth about human psychology. Your greatest enemy is not bad ideas. Bad ideas are easy to recognize. If someone tells you to put all your savings into a Ponzi scheme, your brain will immediately sound the alarm. You turn around and run. Not difficult. Your real enemy is good ideas. Good ideas are the trap. A project with moderate profit, a side job that is somewhat interesting, a social invitation that is fairly enjoyable. Those things are not terrible. They are simply not good enough. They are attractive enough to steal your time, but not powerful enough to change your life. And while you are busy with those fairly decent things, your energy is drained. Your focus is divided. When the truly great opportunity finally appears, you have nothing left to place on the table. Human beings only have a limited amount of energy each day. If you divide that energy among 20 different projects, all 20 will move forward only 1 inch. You remain invisible. But if you pour that entire energy into 2 things, they will travel very far. Think about a magnifying glass under the sun. If you keep moving the magnifying glass back and forth across the paper, nothing happens. The paper only becomes slightly warm. But if you hold the magnifying glass perfectly still and focus all the sunlight on one tiny point, the paper will ignite. That is the difference between scattered light and a laser beam. That is exactly how Charlie Munger and I built Berkshire Hathaway. We did not make 10,000 genius decisions over 50 years. Not at all. Most of our wealth came from about 10 or 12 truly exceptional decisions. The rest of the time, we simply sat in a room reading books and saying no to 99% of what was placed on the table. So here is the exercise for rule number 1. Take a sheet of paper, write down the 25 most important things you want to achieve in life, then circle the 5 most important ones. Those 5 are your path. The remaining 20 are not your second priorities. They are the enemy. That is the list you must avoid at all costs. Treat them like toxic waste. Do not give them a single second of attention until the 5 greatest goals are complete. That is the art of subtraction. And if you want to survive the long game, you must protect your 20-hole card with your entire life. Rule number 2, I call defeating Mr. Market, or the absolute necessity of emotional separation. Let us begin with a biological reality. As a human being, you are biologically programmed to fail at accumulating wealth. Your brain did not evolve in a modern financial system. Your brain evolved in the Stone Age. For tens of thousands of years, human survival depended entirely on herd psychology. If you were walking in the forest and suddenly the rest of your tribe began running in panic, you did not stop to analyze the situation. You did not ask for data tables. You ran. If you stopped to calculate probabilities, a tiger would eat you. Fear and social conformity kept your ancestors alive. But in the modern game of wealth building, the opposite is entirely true. The herd is almost always wrong. Following the crowd in financial markets guarantees absolute mediocrity and often complete bankruptcy. When I was young, my mentor Benjamin Graham taught me a parable that completely changed the way I think. It is the only parable, the most profound lesson I ever learned in business. He told me to imagine that you own a small share of a business and you have a partner in that business. Let us call him Mr. Market. Mr. Market is a very accommodating partner. Every day he comes to your house and offers a price at which he will buy your share or sell you his share. But there's one condition. Mr. Market suffers from a severe untreated psychological disorder. He has extreme manic depression. Some days, Mr. Market is wildly enthusiastic. He looks at the world and sees nothing but sunshine and economic miracles. On those excited days, he is afraid that you will buy his share and take away his future profits. So he offers an incredibly high price for your share. On other days, Mr. Market falls into deep depression. He looks at the world and sees nothing but disaster, political chaos, and total economic collapse. On those dark days, he fears the future. He only wants to withdraw. So he knocks on your door and offers to sell his share for a tiny fraction of the true value of the business. This is the ultimate test of your rationality. Mr. Market is not there to guide you. He is there to serve you. His pocket is your opportunity. But his mood swings are not your instructions. Most people allow Mr. Market to control their emotions. When he is enthusiastic and prices are soaring, they feel overwhelming envy. They see their neighbors getting rich, so they rush in and buy exactly when the fever reaches its peak. And when Mr. Market is depressed and the market is chaotic, they feel overwhelming panic. They sell their lifetime savings exactly at the bottom of the abyss, locking in their permanent destruction. I have a very simple rule that you may have heard before. Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. People like to print that sentence on coffee mugs and posters. They may nod their heads and think they understand it, but they do not understand the psychological pain required to truly execute it. Being greedy when others are fearful is physical pain. When the market collapses and television hosts are screaming. When the global financial system is collapsing, your stomach will tighten, your friends will call and beg you to sell everything, your primitive brain will scream at you to run with the crowd. Step forward and buy at that moment. This requires you to become a cold, calculating machine. It requires the art of absolute emotional separation. You must build a fortress around your mind. You must train yourself to see plunging stock prices not as a physical threat, but as a mathematical mispricing. You must detach your ego, your pride, and your excitement from the flashing red and green numbers on the screen. This is exactly why Charlie and I stayed in Omaha, Nebraska. We deliberately remained thousands of miles away from Wall Street. We wanted to stay as far away from the hysteria as possible. We wanted to sit in a quiet room and evaluate the true value of businesses completely separated from the emotions of the crowd. If you cannot control your emotions, you cannot control your money. So here is your exercise for rule number 2. The next time the world panics and the market falls, I want you to turn off the television, log out of social media, do not watch the news. Look at the balance sheet, examine the cash flow, calculate the intrinsic value. If the value exists and the price is too low, you act. Step forward and seize the opportunity. If the value does not exist, do nothing. Do not let your bipolar partner decide your fate. Master your primitive brain, otherwise it will master you. Rule number 3, I call this the mathematics of survival or the margin of safety. Whenever people ask me for my top investment advice, I always give the same answer. I tell them I have only 2 rules. Rule number 1 is never lose money. Rule number 2 is never forget rule number 1. People often laugh when I say this. They think it is just a clever joke from an old man. They believe that never losing money is physically impossible. But I am not joking. I am stating a strict mathematical law of the universe. The biggest mistake extremely intelligent people make is that they become completely obsessed with potential returns. They spend all their time calculating how much money they could make. They dream about yachts and enormous houses, but they spend absolutely no time calculating risk. They never calculate what happens if they are wrong. Let me explain the brutal mathematics of destruction. If you have $100,000 and you lose 50% of that money, you are left with $50,000. To get back to where you started, you do not need to earn 50%. You must earn 100%. You must work twice as hard and accept twice the risk just to return to the starting line. If you lose 90% of your money, you must earn 900% just to break even. This is the negative compounding effect of losing capital. Once you fall into a mathematical hole, climbing the wall becomes almost impossible. That is why Charlie and I spent our entire lives avoiding stupidity rather than chasing brilliance. In the late 1990s, there was a hedge fund run by some of the smartest people on the planet. They had mathematical geniuses, several winners of the Nobel Prize in economics. They were brilliant, but they used an enormous amount of borrowed money. We call that leverage to increase returns. They wanted to become rich just a little faster. Then an unexpected event happened in the global market. Their models failed, and because they had borrowed too much money, they completely collapsed. They lost billions of dollars and nearly brought down the entire global financial system. They risked what they had and what they needed to get things they did not have and did not need. That is absolute madness. It is like playing a Russian-style game of chance. If you handed me a gun with 1 million chambers and only one bullet in the gun, if you offered me $1 million to put the gun to my head and pull the trigger, I would refuse. The benefit of $1 million is not worth the infinite risk of losing my life. A zero at the end of any multiplication turns the entire equation into zero. You must protect yourself from those zeros. To do this, you must build what my teacher Benjamin Graham called a margin of safety. When an engineer builds a bridge and he knows that every day a truck weighing 10,000 pounds will cross it, he does not build a bridge that can hold exactly 10,000 pounds. If he did that, the bridge would eventually collapse. Instead, he builds a bridge that can easily hold 30,000 pounds. That extra 20,000 pounds of capacity is the margin of safety. It protects the bridge from bad weather, material deterioration, and heavy traffic. You must build your financial life and your personal life the same way an engineer builds a bridge. If you need $5,000 a month to survive, do not build a life that requires exactly $5,000 every month to maintain. Just one medical emergency or losing one client could destroy you. Do not borrow money to buy stocks. Do not mortgage your house to fund a risky business project. You must leave room for human error, for bad luck, and for the unpredictable chaos of the world. If you build a large margin of safety, you remove stress from your life. You will sleep peacefully every night, completely ignoring the panic on television. So here is your exercise for rule number 3. I want you to stress test your entire life, examine your debts, your investments, and your monthly expenses. Are you driving a 10,000-pound truck across a 10,000-pound bridge? Could one small mistake lead to total disaster? If the answer is yes, you must repair the bridge immediately. Reduce leverage. Build a cash reserve. Accept lower returns in exchange for absolute survival. Because the ultimate winner is not the one who drives the fastest, but the one who never crashes. Rule number 4. I call this the undeniable pull of human association, or the absolute necessity of choosing your heroes. We live in a culture that worships the idea of individual willpower. We love the myth of the lone wolf. Motivational speakers tell us that if you work hard enough, if you read enough books, and if you possess enough inner strength, you can overcome any toxic environment. But let me tell you something right now. Willpower is a complete biological illusion. Willpower is exactly like the battery in your mobile phone. You wake up in the morning fully charged, but by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, after struggling with traffic, making decisions, and dealing with difficult people, that battery is completely drained. You have no willpower left. But the environment around you, the people you interact with every day are not batteries, they are gravity. It pulls on you 24 hours a day and it never gets tired. You cannot defeat the gravitational pull of your environment. If you spend your time around 5 people who constantly complain about their jobs, people who spend their weekends getting drunk and constantly blaming the economy for their financial problems, I can guarantee with absolute mathematical precision that you will eventually become the 6th person. You will unconsciously absorb their vocabulary, absorb their excuses, Lower your personal standards to match them, simply because the primitive human brain is designed to seek social harmony. You will become exactly what you are exposed to. But the opposite is also true. If you force yourself into a room with 5 self-made millionaires, people who constantly read books, people who take complete responsibility for their failures, people who operate with absolute integrity, you will inevitably become the 6th among them. Their extremely high standards will become your new normal. When people ask me for the secret behind the success of Berkshire Hathaway, they always expect to hear some complicated theory about compounding or market timing. But the real secret lies in my partner, Charlie Munger. Let me reveal the only secret to you. The most important financial advice you will ever receive in your life is actually the most important financial decision of your entire life. And that decision has absolutely nothing to do with the stock market, real estate, or venture capital. The most important financial decision you will ever make is the person you choose to marry and the person you choose to partner with in business. I chose Charlie because I deeply wanted a partner who would push me to elevate my own abilities. I did not want someone who simply said yes. I did not want an employee. I wanted someone extremely intelligent, someone who reads more books than I do, and someone who has the courage to look me in the eye and tell me when my ideas are completely ridiculous. If I had partnered with someone weaker, my wealth today would be only a small fraction of what it is now. This is the tragic mistake extremely intelligent people often make. They allow their fragile ego to choose their friends. The human ego loves the feeling of superiority. It craves being the smartest person in the room. It feels wonderful when people listen to you. It feels safe to be the one who knows everything. But let me give you a brutal warning. If you look around and realize you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. You are not growing, you are slowly decaying. If you truly want to win in life, you must deliberately seek out places where you are the dumbest person. You must intentionally search for people who make you feel deeply uncomfortable with how much you still have to learn. You want to surround yourself with people who possess real discipline and intelligence. When you are surrounded by giants, your brain has no choice but to adapt. You will automatically rise to survive in that new and higher environment. Tell me who your heroes are and who you spend your time with, and I will tell you exactly how your life will unfold. You will always move in the direction of the people you admire. So here is your exercise for rule number 4. Tonight I want you to conduct a ruthless audit of your social circle. Look closely at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Are they pushing you forward or pulling you down? Are they talking about big ideas or simply gossiping about other people? If they are pulling you down, you must have the courage to create distance. It may sound cold, it may sound heartless, but your survival depends on it. When you begin to do this, you will experience serious social conflict. The people you leave behind will not applaud you. They will try to pull you back down to their level. They will call you arrogant. They will say that you have changed, and you must look them straight in the eye and say, yes, I have changed. And that is the entire point. You must remove negative people from your life, and you must actively recruit heroes who will pull you toward the top. Rule number 5, I call it the ultimate asset that no one can confiscate. It can also be understood as the law of compounding that happens inside every human being. Look at the news today and observe the atmosphere of panic spreading across the world. Many people are living in fear. They worry that inflation will wipe out a lifetime of savings. They fear the government will raise taxes. They fear artificial intelligence will replace their jobs and make them obsolete. And when fear takes control, how do they react? They run everywhere searching for shelter for their money. They pour money into gold rush, into speculative real estate, or buy wildly volatile cryptocurrencies. They try to build a wall of physical assets to defend themselves against an uncertain future, but they forget a very basic economic law. Every physical asset can be taken away. Real estate can be heavily taxed, currency can be eroded by inflation, a business built over 20 years can be defeated by new technology in just a few months, and the stock market can fall 50% in a single week. Yet there is one investment that is almost immune to all of that. It does not fear inflation, it does not fear taxes, and it does not collapse with the market. That investment is your ability to earn money. Put simply, it is your own intellect. When I was in my 20s, I had a very big fear of speaking in public. Just imagining that I had to stand in front of a group of people to present an idea made me feel physically sick. I could hardly do it. My brain could think of many things, but all of them were trapped inside my head. Then I realized an important truth. If I did not overcome this weakness, my career path would be severely limited. One day I saw an advertisement for a public speaking course by Dale Carnegie. The tuition at that time was $100, and for me back then it was not a small amount of money. But I still decided to pay and attend. In that course, I did not learn complex financial models, and I did not learn how to value stocks. The only thing I learned was how to organize my thoughts and express them clearly so that other people could understand them. And let me tell you, the return on that $100 investment, it was not 10% and it was not 100%. The return was millions of percent. If you cannot communicate, your whole life will be like winking at a girl in the dark, nothing happens. You may possess the most brilliant brain, you may discover a cure for a dangerous disease, but if you cannot convey your ideas, your value in the marketplace is almost zero. Simply by learning to write better and speak more clearly, your lifetime earning potential can increase immediately. That is a powerful form of leverage. You already have the brain, and communication is the way you attach that brain to the wheels of life. However, the story does not stop there. You must turn your brain into a machine that accumulates knowledge. People often ask me for the secret to success. They expect some magical formula. I usually point to the pile of annual reports and the thick books on my desk and say that every day I read about 500 pages like that. The common reaction I receive is a series of excuses. They say they do not have time. The truth is that they lack patience. They want a shortcut. They want a miracle pill that can turn them into a genius overnight. But knowledge does not operate that way. Knowledge accumulates gradually like compound interest. When you read a book today and learn a new mental model, it connects with things you learned many years ago. Slowly, a larger network of understanding forms inside your mind. No one can see that process from the outside. It happens quietly and invisibly. But after many decades, that slow accumulation can create astonishing intellectual power. You also do not need to turn learning into torture. Many people like the idea of studying for 20 hours continuously, but intensity that high will only exhaust you. What truly matters is persistence. Persistence is perhaps the most underestimated force in the universe. Reading 20 pages a day sounds very ordinary, but after 10 years, that becomes hundreds of books. And those hundreds of books create an empire of knowledge. Therefore, your exercise in rule number 5 is very simple. Stop obsessing over what the Federal Reserve is doing. Stop checking your investment portfolio every 10 minutes. You cannot control the macroeconomy. Instead, use that anxious energy to invest in the asset with the most certain return. Improve your communication skills. Read one book every week about psychology, history, or business. When the next crisis appears and everyone panics, your bank account may decline temporarily, but your intrinsic value will remain intact. No one can tax your intellect. No one can take away what you have learned. That is what will carry you through hardship and make you stronger after every cycle of crisis. We have talked about the engine and the steering wheel, about the 20 decision punch card, about market psychology, about margin of safety, about the power of environment, and finally about intellectual capital. If you truly apply these 5 rules, the probability is high that you will become wealthy. The mathematics of compounding almost guarantees it. But before we finish, I must tell you something important. I have lived more than 90 years and I have earned an amount of money that many people would need thousands of lifetimes to accumulate. Because of my position, I have met many extremely wealthy and powerful individuals. Some own entire fleets of private jets, some have their names on skyscrapers, and some only need to pick up the telephone to speak with the President of the United States of America. But there is a rather sad secret about some of them. When they reach the end of their lives and lie in a hospital bed, no one truly loves them. Their children wait for the reading of the will, their spouse remains because of the inheritance, their business partners treat them like a tool. They possess enormous wealth, but they are bankrupt in the most important part of life. I do not care how many billions of dollars you have in your account. If when you reach my age, the people you want to love you do not truly love you, then that life is a failure. I call it the rocking chair test. Imagine that you are 95 years old sitting on a chair on the front porch and looking back over your entire life. You will not think about your investment portfolio or the quarterly profits of your company. You will not remember the promotion you received at 40 years old. What you will remember are the people around you, how you treated them, whether you lived with integrity or not, whether you built trust or broke it just to earn more money. Money is a wonderful tool. It brings freedom, it brings choices, and it helps you avoid the pressure of survival. But money cannot buy love. You can buy a yacht, buy a mansion, even buy the illusion of respect. But you cannot write a check for $1 million to purchase sincerity from the human heart. If you want to be loved, the only way is to become someone worthy of love. So when you step out into the world, remember that. Start rolling your snowball. Do not trade your reputation for quick profits. Do not sacrifice your family for promotion. And do not climb the ladder of success only to discover that it is leaning against the wrong wall. Play the game of becoming wealthy, play it very well, but always remember that money is only the byproduct of a life lived the right way. Apply these 5 rules starting today. Stop drifting and take hold of the steering wheel of your life.